YKE.
There's something powerful about the journey of leadership, the daily steps, the long-term vision, and everything we learn along the way. Welcome to Leadership Labs, where we explore these journeys with the incredible leaders of Aurora Public Schools. In each episode, we hear from those who are helping guide our district to Destination APS, sharing their stories, their challenges, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Drew from Kenton Elementary School. Drew is finishing his 7th year.
Yes, correct.
Of leading the Kenton Roadrunners, and during that time, the school has seen remarkable growth, achieving a performance rating on the school performance framework for the past 2 years, which is a significant milestone for the Kenton community. So I'm really excited to hear about his leadership and the journey at Kenton. So Drew, welcome to Leadership Labs. Before we dive into your journey, would love to hear a little bit just about yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me today. A little bit about myself. As you said, this is my 7th year at Kenton Elementary. I had a previous opportunity to work at Laredo as a principal there as well. I am from Iowa originally, had the opportunity to student teach in Commerce City, and really great opportunity to be able to, in college, kind of leave Iowa City and kind of explore a different area, and really fell in love with Colorado. And I ended up moving back to Iowa, taught 1 year of 7th grade science in Des Moines. Really, my passion was to try to find an elementary classroom, and a 5th grade position came up back in Commerce City and brought me back out to Colorado. And that's kind of where I started my journey as an educator.
That's amazing. So you went to college in Colorado?
I went to University of Iowa, but they had a program where we could student teach at a few different sites across the country. And so I chose the Commerce City site.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's interesting. Yeah, I love to learn about where folks come from. I think that's such an important part of our journeys as well. So
yes.
Thank you for sharing. For those who are unfamiliar with Kenton Elementary, tell us a little bit about it. From your principal's letter, I see that, the Road to Success acronym.
Yes.
What makes the Kenton Roadrunner community so special?
It's a really vibrant community. I had the opportunity when I came to really kind of establish some new things. So even when you say the Road to Success, that was brought in through a kind of a PBIS system, where we really wanted to provide teachers with the opportunity to build community and build culture in their classrooms. And so we did a lot of work with restorative practices, with morning meetings. Every day, you'll hear my voice on announcements saying the road to success starts at Kenton. We are respectful, open-minded, accountable, and determined to shape a successful future. And then I would end it with have a great day. And so what's funny is now students, every time they say it, will end with have a great day. And so every assembly, and it's just been a great community where teachers have really made a strong commitment. We've had a very low turnover rate over those 7 years. And so we've been able to kind of build this school community together, and parents come out to our family events in large numbers. And so it's just a real exciting community of learners.
That's fantastic. I think in our last conversation with Lisa from Rangeview, we explored a little bit about what consistency and stability means for a school community, and the culture of the school, and even just what students come to expect of the school, of the educators there. And so I'm hearing a similar theme, and that's fantastic.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we've spoken to leaders from various levels, and would love to just hear, what does a typical day look like for the principal of Kenton Elementary? How do you start your day? How do you end your day? I think another recurring theme is there's not typical days per se, but what are some of the things that on the best principal days, are on your calendar?
Yes. I talk with my admin team. We always talk, we start our day, coverage, duty, good vibes. and it's just how we begin. And so from 8 to 8:10, it's really establishing that we feel every classroom is going to have a smooth day. And so we get people where they need to go. We build a staff that has that ability to cover some of those areas that might be needed on a given day. And then we make sure duties set. Do we have everybody on the corners? Do we have everyone ready to go, to make sure that we're having a nice welcome and also creating the safety that we need to start a day? And then we have to spend that first 30 minutes of the day creating, good vibes within the building. And so it's walking the halls, saying hello to teachers, asking what is needed, checking in with the cafeteria staff. Some days there's some busy lunches that are coming up. We're serving 550 breakfasts in the morning, lunches. What can we do to help there? Just to make sure that we're thinking through all the things that are just going to make for a smooth day in the classrooms for students.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yes.
Of course, we talk a little bit about, leaders and the training ground and sort of where you cut your teeth, and every leader's journey has their training grounds, and no journey is the same, but would love to learn a little bit more about what initially drew you to a career in education.
I had a great experience of being a camp counselor in high school. And it was after one summer that I, really had a passion for working with youth. And so then I started to explore some other opportunities, got involved in some volunteer opportunities in college. I applied for an internship in the Chicago Public Schools. It was the first internship of its kind where we would work in the south side of Chicago, teaching summer school with a teacher that provides some guidance through that program. And then we'd go to professional development in the afternoons. And that was just a great experience to have exposure to urban education and what it really takes to build relationships with students and to try to have an impact with the work that we do. And so that was a really powerful start before, I began the teaching career. And then into, those first few years of teaching, really trying to be that learner. I remember one kind of formative experience that, I almost, in a sense, kind of felt like a little bit of a fraud in a way in one of my, first year teaching. I had the motivation, the passion, dedication, but I was asked, how do you teach someone to read? And it was just a friend of mine who was struggling with their son that was having some challenges in school. And I recognized that I don't know if I know the progression of phonics. I can provide motivation, time, and space. And so that was a huge experience for me to really be able to dig into some of those areas where you see a high need, and to really learn the processes for things like teaching students to read, teaching students the progressions of math, and really dedicating my time to becoming strong in those areas to build the systems in my classroom. And then ultimately, as a leader, the systems needed within a school to truly tackle those things in a building.
That's amazing. So now you're a teacher, and how do you make the transition from teacher to school leader? Tell us a little bit about your path from teacher to becoming a principal, and was there a specific moment that helped solidify your decision to move in that direction, or a mentor or somebody who pushed you in that direction?
Yes, when I chose to do the administrative licensure program, I believe it was in my fourth year. I had a goal to teach for 15 years initially. And then after that, I had the mentor at the school, Samara Williams, amazing mentor at the elementary school, and provided me with a lot of opportunities to get in and see other classrooms, to visit other schools, participate in learning activities outside of the school building. I had a wonderful student teacher who was able to maintain the classroom environment in my classroom. And so I felt comforted by that as well. And so using those experiences, I really saw that, through some systems building, what could be possible in terms of serving a greater number of students. And so I really became excited about that opportunity to take on leadership. I do remember getting that first assistant principal job after my 5th year and sitting in that seat for the first time. And you're kind of looking around saying, what do I do first?
Yeah.
But really just bringing positive energy to the work, getting out and learning from classrooms. The teachers in the classrooms is what is most inspiring to me. My greatest learning has come from being able to, steal what I see in the classrooms, really letting the teachers know the amazing things that are happening in the classroom, but then also asking for their support and how we can, help to spread, the great things that were happening in one room and across a team and then even across grade levels.
I appreciate that. So okay, so now we're teacher AP.
Yes.
And I know you, this is your second principalship.
Yes.
And so, tell us a little bit about from AP to principal, and specifically, how you came to be at Kenton.
Yes. My first principal job at Laredo happened after serving as an AP for 3 years. I was at a school where we made some significant change. And after the 3rd year, that school had the highest academic achievement out of all the elementary schools. And really being a part of that work, Teresa Bonella was the principal at the time, and we worked collaboratively together and really learning from some of her leadership. Made me want to take that leap into the principal job, knowing that it was going to be a little bit of a leap of faith. And so had that first job at Laredo and really was met with a staff that had a really strong culture. And what I wanted to also bring to the school was, just this really getting students involved and our teachers involved in everything from Saturday sports clubs to we would all on a weekend grab kids in our cars and we'd go up to the mountains and go on hikes. And so we started to build this culture where it was really a community hub at Laredo. And I had the opportunity to spend 4 years there. And in the 4th year, Laredo was recognized as a CDE Center of Excellence. It was really a credit to the amazing work that the whole staff took on in transforming the school culture and the instruction within the building. I did at that time have a little life change that required me to take a step back. I have 3 boys at home, and as a single dad at that time, I went and I had the opportunity to serve in the Denver Public Schools for 1 year as an assistant principal and enjoyed that experience, but really wanted to get back into a school to serve as principal. And so the following year, applied for Kenton. My former director, Andre Wright, at that time was the chief academic officer, and he gave me a call and said, I have this school that I think that you should apply for. It's a school that I think that you could do some great things in supporting the staff culture. And so I took on Kenton that year, and 7 years later, I'm still there and enjoying every day working with the amazing staff and students at the school.
That's a great transition. So as you spoke about the Center of Excellence recognition at Laredo, I'm hearing from you the sentiment of, that's a credit to the staff and to the team and to everyone's commitment and work and et cetera. And I know just going back to one of our earlier conversations this school year, Kenton was on the front end of the schools I got to visit at the beginning of the year. And yes, we had a conversation about Kenton's performance rating. And, when I asked you about the growth at Kenton, you mentioned some specific structures you developed, but of course you also talked quite a bit about your amazing teachers. Can you share with our listeners what you believe has been key to the remarkable progress and turnaround at Kenton?
I would say in that first year, there are 2 significant shifts that we made. One, we are using a curriculum that, is now, there's an entire podcast about Lucy Calkins, being a curriculum that doesn't serve the needs of students in a way of teaching that foundational reading. And so
you're talking about Sold a Lie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
it's a good podcast.
It's a good
if
podcast.
anyone's listening out there. Yeah.
And so part of the shift was, I remember interviewing, and it was my, first interview with, and one of the questions from the staff was, "Are you committed to keeping this program?" Mm-hmm. And there was a part of me that knew this was going to be the right school for me, but I knew that wasn't a curriculum. And so early on, within the year, I saw that it was a $42,000 contract that we would need to sign to have, people come out for 4 days that year, and also a curriculum that didn't really have the belief that we can develop foundational readers. And so we made a shift through introducing small groups, which was a ability to meet the individual needs of students. We also created, from the Unbound Ed conference, they talked about the need to have tier 1 instruction for all students. And so we implemented a complex text block where all students read a grade level text. We provided the scaffolds and supports needed for students to access that text. And then we would have weekly written responses. And this was one of the biggest shifts. I remember I had a teacher in the first data meeting, and it was one of those belief statements that can sometimes be a little tricky. They said, our students can't do this. And at that moment, I was thinking about, how do I respond in this moment?
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at the work, and it was very far away from what the expectation was for grade level. And so I asked a simple question. I said, well, based on the trends of what you see right now, what do you think they could get better at for next week? And that teacher identified 2 things that they could target through their instruction during that complex text block. The next week, they brought it back, and the students, 75% of them had accomplished doing those 2 things. And so that became our big shift. It isn't about how do we get from point A to point Z. It's how do we get from A to B, from B to C. And so we take really small steps, and we really talk about, look at the student work and look at what is that one small move that we can make that's going to create that little bit of improvement. And then over time, we did that with phonics. We did that with a few other shifts. And one of the main ones was also carving out space for social emotional learning during the day. Teachers let me know that they were expected to begin instruction at the bell at the start of the day. And this was leading to some behavior challenges and students not feeling like a part of a community. And so we carved out the first 15 minutes of the day for teachers to form a circle with their students, have students recognize one another, have, fun questions that are important for management, questions that really get students to know one another. And so we built some really tight classroom communities that allowed students to feel safe in their learning space.
That's making me think again about our earlier conversation about consistency, and even to your point, one of the things that you're proud of is the lower turnover, and then connection with moving from A to B, B to C, C to D over time.
Yes.
You see market improvement continuously, right? Where I think even though you and the team only had a chance to have one SPF pre-pandemic because of the pandemic, and then a couple of years of a freeze, the first time we had a SPF post-pandemic, you rebounded higher than your 2019 SPF, which I think is, just a testament to the work that you just described, where a lot of schools across the country saw the opposite, but not Kenton. So, just a kudos observation there. I want to take us back also to that visit. So you talked about some of those structures, and you talked about how your teachers were collaborating, and you described it, and then you took us through the classrooms. And I remember just clear as day, coming out to the 5th grade sort of wing and checking out the classrooms, and really impressed by the work that was happening there. It must have been a week or 2 later that I got the list of the teachers across the district by teacher, the MGP by teacher.
Yes.
And I texted you
Yes.
because I don't know if I ever shared this part of the story with you, but we were on our way to the mountains,
Okay.
and my wife had just gotten a new car, and so she drove, and I was in the passenger seat with my with my computer open.
Yes.
So I'm looking at MGP by
Yes.
teacher, and I filtered by the highest, and of course you had a squad of teachers who were in up there on the list. And so I texted you and said, "Hey,
Yes.
did you know this?" And you did, of course. And I actually ended up, I just shared this with you this morning, but nominated one of those teachers to be featured in the teacher appreciation video from the superintendent this week. Would love to hear from you. How have you fostered that culture where teachers are thriving and achieving such strong results? But this is
Yes.
it's a team that yeah. Tell us a little bit about it.
No, I mean, a lot of factors, obviously, and sometimes it's hard to place, which specific factor. But
Yeah, totally.
you start to think through and reflect on some of the things, and it kind of reminds me of just a visit that I did to first grade. I had two teachers reach out. First grade writing we were looking at this year, and I had teachers saying we'd really like to enhance our writing block. It hasn't been something that we felt super confident in how we're moving students year to year. We've kind of done, the curriculum kind of as is, and it's gotten some results, but we'd like to see if we could push it a little further. We put that into our data team, and we started, and we had students at the beginning of the year learning letters and sounds. And at first grade, we'd hope that we could jump right into sentences in those first few weeks.
Sure.
And so I really believe it's kind of that looking for the small growth, having those collaborative meetings together, always looking at student work, and really pulling the data from what we see kids doing, what we see them doing in classrooms, what we see them doing with engagement, more than sometimes trying to look from a number that just comes through a computer and responding to that number. Those are good little benchmarks of your school, those universal assessments, but we really want to get down to the work. And so the celebration that I had with the first grade team was their students were writing 5-page stories with quotation marks, correct grammar, sight words, and it all is related back to making these small little improvements from week to week. Absolutely. And celebrating those small wins along the way. I'm a big Cotter's change model fan. And so I really look at establishing a core team, creating that sense of urgency, and creating the vision. And if you truly do that with your teams and your teams rally, sometimes even if the goal might not necessarily be met, that group working together and having ownership over that and doing it together, I think is one of the most powerful things that we can do. And so as a school leader, when your teams are going through that, it's great to be that person that's just that cheerleader. Yeah. You're in there at the work, but you're also celebrating those small wins, working with teams. We like to invite a lot of other schools out to visit Kenton so that they can learn from some of the practices that are happening. We've developed a really tight intervention to where we have a push-in interventionist during small groups for grades K through 5. And, kind of even looking at the shift, there was a couple of years ago where when we first introduced it, it was, I'm going to have someone else in my classroom. I might be a little bit nervous about that. We had some people that might have been a part of the core change team that were excited, extra person in my classroom. And to where now it's just a common practice that everyone is like, oh, I get to have this second person in my room, push an intervention. It maximizes the amount of time that students get. It also creates greater engagement in the classrooms and provides that support because the collaboration between interventionists, teachers on teams is so supportive that I had one teacher recently come to me and said, it's her first year at Kenton, and she said, I don't get the Sunday scaries anymore. And I said, what are the Sunday scaries? They're like, it's that feeling where on Sunday you're kind of nervous to get to go to school. You don't know what you're going to be experiencing. And she said, I just love coming to work every day. And it's, I'm really, really glad to be here. And so, it's kind of those anecdotal anecdotes that sometimes, really motivate me to continue to just offer support each day.
You talked earlier about you've been an assistant principal in a couple of spaces, a principal in a couple of spaces.
Yes.
Has your leadership evolved or changed during your time at Kenton, where you've been for the last 7 years? I think especially as you consider navigating the challenges of leading the school pre-pandemic and post-pandemic.
There's definitely been some shifts. I think one big thing that has been powerful is creating a feedback document where we've trained all of our admin, anyone that does any coaching, and we try to also ask this of anyone that comes into the building as support staff, to truly reflect on what it means to be supportive. And so one thing that we have is we're not allowed to provide a next step to a teacher without one of the two supports that we require being you will model what you are sharing could be a next step. And so what that does is it really helps you shrink the next step. It doesn't mean that someone's always going to ask for a model, but what it does is it allows you to say, yes, I couldn't necessarily take the time to create the flip charts, do the planning, know the sequence. And so maybe that's not the feedback I should be giving in a classroom. If it is something around a discourse strategy, what is that one discourse strategy that could be applied the next day? How could I go in and stand side by side with that teacher and say, oh, let's take pause right now and ask students to pair share. It's a very simple practice, but it also shows that you're willing to stand in front of the students and really model those expectations. And so I think that's something that has really become part of our strong culture at Kenton, is knowing that you're not going to be asked to do something that somebody else wouldn't step in front and do themselves. And it's, along with that is there's no small job within, or no job too big, no job too small within a school. As I talked about, even the cafeteria staff, there's walking tacos day. And walking tacos day is where they have to open up this Doritos bag that needs a tear across the top. And, each tear at, 2 seconds a bag. We did the math, and we're saying it's going to be really difficult to prepare for lunch. So on those days, we always make sure that we're down there and doing the work. And so there's this leadership move of let's really support every area within the school that's going to help the day run smooth, but also, especially in the classrooms, be willing to go first.
Yeah, that what a great anecdote you've shared with us to learn from about how you model the way.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Okay.
The next question, as we think about some of the leadership mile markers, the next one usually stumps folks because there's so much to be proud of. Yes. So especially with the longer tenures, right? So you asked me, what's the thing you've been proudest of since working in APS? I only got to think back 13 months.
Yes.
But you got to think back 7 years. What's been your proudest moment as principal of Kenton Elementary?
That is really difficult. I would say the proudest moments, I think come up at different times. Sometimes they're really small. Sometimes it's how we respond to a particular student. It might be one individual need, how we rally around as a team. And it's in the grand scheme of things, with 550 students, to see 6 educators carving out a little bit of additional time to serve one student, to make sure that student feels more comfortable in being a part of our class, being part of our school, is really powerful. Then on a large scale, I think that you can have celebrations where you do a night like a color run we just had. We had over 750 participants in this color run, running around the school. Everyone had a Color Run Kenton t-shirt on, lots of smiles. We bring out a photographer each year to take pictures, so we can take those pictures and put them on the walls of the building for the next year, so students see themselves when they come in. And those are those moments where they just give you so much energy, and it just feeds you in terms of the why around why you do this work, to create those memories, but also to see students just growing on so many levels.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask you a fun question in a second, but first, let me um, ask, what's a leadership lesson that you either consistently find yourself coming back to or sharing with your team, or just that you would share to an aspiring elementary school principal?
Ah, I think one of the big ones is, and I actually had in my first day in my first principal job, I had the opportunity to do a transition meeting. And I had the former principal of Laredo say to me, be vulnerable. And that's a lesson that I've carried with me and that I would share to others. Being able to, really reflect, learn from your mistakes, have that growth mindset, and know that you can overcome a lot of challenges through your positive energy and the presence that you can bring to this work. And so I'm humbled by the individuals that I work with. I continue to try to strengthen my practice as an educator and remember what it's like to be in a classroom, remember what it's like to be an assistant, remember what it's like to be in those roles. And if you begin to forget that, ask.
Yeah.
So
what a great gem.
Yes.
Let's transition a little bit to some fun questions. The previous question is also fun, so let me
Yeah, sure.
but some lighter questions. We are at the end of the school year at the moment. We've got, I think, 2 weeks to go yesterday, so
Yes.
nine school days left for students. What are some of your favorite things that you're looking forward to in just the last couple of weeks of the school year? Some
Yes.
annual traditions or fun things that happen at Kenton?
Yeah, we have a great fifth grade continuation, which is always exciting. We do the kindergarten graduation and some celebrations and songs. And, it's great seeing all the staff members come out, especially during fifth grade, to watch their students that they've had in first, second, or third grade continue from fifth grade. One of the just really fun activities that we do is I have a fifth grade team that decorates their entire rooms and hallways. They're in a mobile classroom, and so they kind of get their own space out there, and they decorate it in a Harry Potter theme. And so that was their read aloud for the last few weeks of school. And so it was in, I believe, my second year. I said to the team, I said, hey, would it be okay if I came out as a visiting professor and just did some magic tricks with the students and, pseudoscience experiments? And so it's kind of evolved into an hour-long magic show for students. But it's, just really fun, and the kids get excited. And so that's always one thing I look forward to at the end of the year.
That's amazing. My only regret about that, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, is I don't get to see the magic show.
I know.
Would love to see that. And then just to continue on the theme of a little bit lighter, but thinking of some of like motivation, every leader needs fuel for the journey. What is a leadership book or that has either significantly influenced you or something that you read recently that you might recommend to a leader out there, an aspiring leader?
Every year we at Kenton, we like to come up with a theme for the year. And looking for those themes and what might connect, it's good to read different books. And what I really enjoy doing is listening to different podcasts. One in particular is Hidden Brain. And it's sometimes nice to kind of get out of the direct connections to education and try to find some of those connections that end up applying to our work a lot more than we might sometimes think going to other podcasts. And so I had one podcast that was in particular, it highlighted fuel versus friction. And the part of the podcast was sometimes we like to add more and put things on a plate in order to solve a problem. But it really talked about how sometimes you can reduce things and take things off the plate, and it actually can lead to greater gain. And so it had a great leadership connection to a start of the year that we were able to have, where we looked at how do we do the right things, do them focused, and also not add extra things that aren't going to move the needle. And so that was kind of a powerful listen that really kind of shaped our ability to kind of set up an exciting theme for a year.
I love it.
Yes.
And I sort of go from book to podcast, sometimes music.
Yes.
And a lot of Audible books. So staying on the music theme, when you need to recharge or find inspiration, what's playing in your leadership headphones? What's
the headphones?
Music, artist, genre. I know earlier in the year we had a phone call and you were on your way to a concert with your son, I believe, and I didn't ask you who are y'all going to see.
That was Steven Sanchez. He's kind of this throwback singer that sings in a 1950s style. But so my son really got into him, and actually I was listening to his podcast on a run or not his podcast, his radio station the other day. And so Spotify was kind of mixing different singers, and I heard a singer named Hazlitt sing the song Bloom. And it was one of the most beautiful songs that I've heard while running. And I came back and played it for a few teachers. It was kind of funny. I'm like, you don't have to sit through all 3 minutes, but here's a song that kind of put me in a rejuvenating mood at night.
Awesome. That's great.
Yes.
So our final round here, as we near the finish line, what does Destination APS mean to the Kenton community?
Yes. Destination APS, when I think about it in the context of my role as principal at Kenton, really wanting families to feel like they are a part of something when they join Kenton. And a lot of times we have a high transient rate. So students, high mobility rate, where a student might only be with us for a few months. And looking at the experience of a student, how can we have their learning experience while they're only with us for a few months be as powerful as possible? Yes. One thing we were able to do a few years back, we took a look at the writing that we were getting from the complex text block, and we put up pictures of students with their beginning of year and with their writing where they were at that time. And it was only November, and I shared with a group of visitors. They said, well, this student is leaving in 2 weeks. All they had with us was they only had the opportunity to be with us for 4 months, but let's look at where their writing was in 4 months. And so our team does a really nice job of, if you're here with us for a day or for 6 years, you're going to feel a part of the Roadrunner community.
That's great. What excites you the most about the future of Kenton?
This year we had the opportunity to partner with MSU. We started a student teacher program.
Oh, good.
And so we're bringing in 5 to 6 student teachers every year. The energy that they brought to our building, seeing them participating in our color run, throwing color on the different corners at students, and just letting us know about how wonderful their experience is, but also knowing that we're accelerating their learning so that when they do become a first-year teacher, they're going to be ahead of the game in their ability to really lead a class. We know it's difficult in those first few years, and so being able to have that training, it's great to have these additional caring adults in our building that get to be a part of our team.
Awesome. Drew,
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing Kenton's inspiring journey, your leadership insights with us today. It's incredibly powerful to hear about the focused effort, the development of the effective structures, and the dedication of your teachers that have led to such significant growth and success for the Roadrunners. The story of Kenton achieving performance ratings is a real bright spot within the Aurora Public Schools community. So thank you for sharing it and for allowing me to broadcast it. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on Leadership Labs. Join us next time as we continue exploring the paths of those guiding us toward Destination APS. And as I always say, similar to have a great day, until then, keep running your race with purpose.
Thank you.